Hey guys, so for this very last set of slides, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the food stamp program. That's again the nickname for SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. You will need to know what the name of the food stamp, again, nickname of the program, what that program is. Again, it's SNAP and it stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. You'll need to be able to write this out on your next exam. So not all foods and food items and household items are able to be purchased using the SNAP program. So for instance, households can buy, fresh fruits and vegetables and dairy products, certain breads and cereals, meats, fish, and poultry. However, households can't buy beer, wine, liquor, cigarettes, vitamins, medicines, foods that are already prepared that will be eaten off site. So if you're thinking about kind of like the warm meals area of a grocery store. Generally, you can't buy foods using SNAP benefits. You also can't buy pet foods and some paper products, also some diapers, right? And soaps. These are all things that you can't use SNAP benefits to buy. But again, for, major food groups and fruits and vegetables and fresh foods, for the most part, you can use your benefits. So next up, I want to go through some of the myths of the SNAP program. So one myth is that many people on food stamps or on SNAP program are lazy and they don't want to work. We find about 20% of the population on SNAP using SNAP benefits are disabled and non-elderly. Others you find live in a childless home and they're at or below the federal poverty line. And more often, you're only allowed to receive about 3 months of benefits in any 3-year period. So it's not as though there are these individuals that are lazy and they don't want to work, and so they go on this program and stay on it for the rest of their lives. It's often a short term benefit to get you back up on your feet, to be at a point where you can afford fresh foods again. And individuals are not really allowed to stay on the program for long amounts of time. Another theory is that most SNAP benefit users are African American or Black African American, whereas you'd see the majority are actually white, low income populations. Now, if you look at the percentages of people receiving SNAP benefits, you do see among um, Black and Hispanic, Latino, and other minority populations that there seem to be higher rates as compared to higher rates of the population as compared to overall population. However, you do also see that folks that are of ethnic minority background tend to be disproportionately poorer than some of the white populations, and that's been linked to workplace discrimination, has been linked to lack of educational opportunity, as well as something called institutional racism. When the people who made the rules in the first place on how to be successful came from a certain majority, more often upper middle class, white Anglo-Saxon populations, kind of set the rules as to how to be the most successful in society. When you don't measure up to that, it can be that much harder to work to get to that level of being considered um, successful and to earn a similar income. Another myth that SNAP benefits greatly contribute to national debt. If you can see here that only really about 2.2% of our gross domestic product goes towards food stamp or SNAP and cash assistance spending. If you look at this federal outlays for 2017, you see that we really spend the most amount on pensions and healthcare. Now, what are pensions? Pensions are retirement plans for individuals who've worked for local and federal government. So even at like academic institutions, when you have retirement or people who worked in the military or people who've worked for the federal government and for special benefits programs, but particularly retirement plans, that's where a large part of our GDP goes, is to setting money aside to help with um, retirement plans for civil servants. Another large expenditure is healthcare. 28%. That makes up a huge percentage of our GDP, actually the highest worldwide. Other major expenditures, defense, to have military. Welfare actually went from 10% to 9%, and that's where food stamp and cash assistance is placed, is under the welfare program. So again, education only accounts for 3%. So this again shows just a breakdown of how our federal government spent money in 2017. That the SNAP, another myth is that the SNAP program has led to quite a fair share of fraud and abuse, where people are trading their SNAP benefits for money or for non-food goods. Well, with the creation of these EBT cards, which have replaced the traditional stamps, it's easier to track and see that there's actually a no cashback option when you go to the store. So if you were to use your debit card at, say, like a Fry's, and it says, oh, would you like cash back? You can do that with your debit card. You can't do that with a SNAP benefit card. So with the invent of these EBT cards, we've seen fraud reduced. It's not very common that you see fraud and abuse with the SNAP program, but when there is, you definitely hear of it, and the SNAP program gets a bad rap. So little known facts, it is linked, this program has been linked to reduce childhood food insecurity. Whereas if you look nationwide, the individuals most at risk for not having food security are actually kids. And it also helps reduce the negative impact of negative cognitive, the lack of academic development as children get older. Often, hunger is mistaken for, childhood hunger can be mistaken for behavioral issues. Just think about how hangry you might get when you're, you're bottoming out under sugar, when you don't have enough food in your stomach, when you're having a hard time paying attention because you're hungry, right? Kids exhibit these symptoms all, all more often. And even hunger can be confused with symptoms for ADHD, and again, for behavioral issues. And according to physicians and medical researchers, this program is one of America's best medicines to prevent and treat childhood food insecurity. So again, I just wanted to illustrate some of the benefits as well as some of the myths and facts related to this program that you learned a bit about by watching Food Stamped.